Hit it, Phil.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Can it be the breeze that fills the trees with rare and magic perfume? Oh, no, it isn't the breeze. It's Jackson time. La-da-da-da.
Stay tuned.
Right after this episode.
For our discussion.
Talk about your band for a little bit. I mean, even though it was honor to you, I mean, I thought it was a good evening.
It was a marvelous evening.
And I know that you were flattered that the Vice President Agnew, was on hand last night for a while. He had to go back to Washington because he had a meeting, but he flew, in from Illinois?
He flew in from Peoria just to talk for about 6 or 7 minutes, and then had to fly to Washington. Well, I think that was a marvelous, a wonderful thing to do. But as you know about as well as I do, and he has a excuse me, a wonderful sense of humor. Now, we were both invited, Johnny Carson and I, to go to the launching of Apollo 11. And we were both down there. And he says real funny things. You know, we were sitting pretty close together, if you remember. And when the rocket, when it went up, Apollo 11, now to have a thing like this on his mind was so funny to me. After it got up, you know how tense everyone was and excited. When it finally got up, he turned to me. He said, "You know, Jack, that won't go up on 1 gallon." Isn't that marvelous? He said, sure. He said a lot of funny things. Then I said to him, then we started to kid about it, even though it was exciting. And I said I wouldn't be surprised when the 2 men got on the moon that they might find Bob Hope entertaining the troops, you know. And he added they could also find Georgie Jessel selling Israel bonds.
And had to top you.
Yeah, he had to top me with something.
Many people had not seen the Vice President, I don't think, prior to last night, really stand up and do some comedy remarks. And he was very, very funny. I think everybody was kind of surprised. He gave it to you pretty good. I might tip one line, because the show won't be seen for a while, and I don't think it's out of context. But he said he got up and he said, Jack had thrown his support to President Nixon, who had promptly thrown it back. And he says he'd also thrown your support to Alf Landon, he said.
Yes.
Wendell Wilkie, William Jennings
Bryan, he did that.
4 times, he said, you'd thrown it. It's a funny
I'll tell you something else we can talk about that I'm pretty sure won't be on the air. We did a lot of things that won't be on the air. You know what he said? He said he heard that... what was your line?
Which one?
I took a Dramamine.
I didn't think it was a bad. I think it'll probably be on.
It won't.
You don't think so?
No. I'm sure it won't.
All I said, there was nothing wrong with the line. I said I'd talked with Mary. And I said that Mary had told me that you were the same man today that you were the day she married you. And then I said, well, Mary said, well, maybe a little older. And the only difference is that now that when you made love, you took a Dramamine for motion sickness. No, nothing wrong with that.
But I told him he was wrong. I take a Dexedrine so I can stay awake. I had a compliment.
Yeah, I would stay in.
I bet it will not stay in. We did a lot of things that won't stay in.
I'll bet those 2 lines stay in.
Oh, quiet.
Talk, kid. I'm going to stop for a moment here to sell something, and we'll come right back. General Electric took a lesson from the swivel chair. They made a swivel-top canister cleaner for all-around cleaning and mobility. Watch. We're doing it again, is he? Last night, George Burns got up, and who breaks Jack? George is a genuinely funny man. But he was telling about some of your little idiosyncrasies and things that he does to you. And then afterwards, I know what he's talking about, because we went over to 21. Danny Seymour of J. Walter Thompson had the people on the dais over. And George always kids you about no matter where you are, if you're having a glass of water at the country club, It's always the best water that you've ever had in your life, no matter what it is. You rave about things. Remember what you did last night? You sat down and you had a bowl of vichyssoise.
That's right.
And before you'd taken 2 tablespoons of it, you said to me and Joanne and all the people at the table, "This is the best vichyssoise I've ever had in my life." True.
And it was. And I like to enthuse like that. And that's what keeps me young.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
I'm right.
But I almost
I like
fell out of the chair
everything.
last night when you said that.
It was.
Then you did it.
It was
Then
the
you
best vichyssoise, and it was for nothing, too, the whole
Then you said,
whole.
then you did something else. You said, you know, when I have a cup of coffee, I can have the first cup full. That's fine. And how do you like the second one?
Well, I don't think that's funny.
No, but the second cup. The second cup you don't
I say
like
I
full.
like it half full.
Or 2/3.
Yes.
But you'll never have a full second cup. But you
Yeah.
don't know why.
Well, where are we going with that joke?
No place. No, but
That's
these
the
are
lousiest thing I've ever heard.
But these are the things.
Everything I tell you isn't funny.
If George would have said that, you'd have been on the floor.
Yes. If George Burns had said that, I'd have been on the floor.
If George would have said, "You only had half a cup, Jack," he'd fall right on the floor.
I'll tell you something, though. You did an MC job, and I don't like, when you go on shows, you always tell people how great they are. I'm so sick of hearing that now on all the shows. Sometimes I wish you'd say, here he is, the lousy comedian, Jack Benny, anything except what they always say. But I must say once, and you don't hear me say this often, I say it to you in person, but never in front of an audience, very seldom. You are the best MC at a banquet that I've heard in years.
Well, thank
You
you.
really are. And he works just like I do and steals all my stuff while he's doing
Well, I
that.
give you credit.
That's right.
Thank you,
always
Jack.
give me credit.
Coming from you, that's the supreme compliment. Tell them the story. How much time we have here? Can't tell it in 45 seconds. But we're going to bump here and take a network break. But I want you to tell me the story that you told me before the show last night. You said you couldn't tell at the banquet because it really wasn't a dinner type of story. When you were working with, I think, Basil Rathbone and Irene Dunn, and it was a film, and they'd stop.
I'll
Remember the
tell
one?
that here.
But we'll take a break.
We're telling
before
all
that.
the stuff here we couldn't do the other night, isn't that?
It'll stay in here.
I'm the dirtiest man.
I've heard that. Richie Havens is also with us. Heard the kids, Suzanne Charney and Perry Jackson and Henry Parsons. So stay where you are. We'll be right back. It's a silly story, but it shows you how people react and can top somebody or do a funny line very quickly when they're not even professionals. We were talking about the vice president who talked about the rocket. This had to do with a young lady that was a script girl?
Script girl. Well, I'd like to tell the story because it's really very funny. A long time ago, when I say a long time ago, just a few years ago, I did a television show that was taped. And I did the show with Basil Rathbone, with Irene Dunn, and Claudette Colbert. And there's always a script girl. You see, when you tape a show, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, and if you stop because there's a mistake, then the script girl has to remember exactly how you were standing and exactly what you were doing so that he can carry on from there.
She usually makes a couple of notes or something, doesn't she, of what you were doing?
Anything. She makes notes, and they never make mistakes. Never. The script girls are marvelous. So one night, we were doing a show, but with a large audience, an audience like you have here. And the script girl was watching us, and we were standing, the four of us. Can I stand?
Sure.
So the four of us were standing, and I was standing with Basil Rathbone, and Irene Dunn and Claudette Colbert were facing us. You see? Now, something went wrong, and they had to stop. Now, we told the audience, if anything goes wrong, remember where you laughed last and all this and that, you know. Well, anyway, So we're about to shoot again, and this little Swedish girl, this script girl, said, will everybody hold it, please? She said, now, Mr. Rathbone, when you were standing last, at this last take, you had your left hand in your pocket. And he says, and Miss Colbert, you had your arms folded. So I wanted to be a real show-off, a real smart aleck, and thought I'd get a laugh. And I want to show you how the script girl killed it for me. She just got through telling Rathbone to put his hand in his pocket and told Miss Colbert, says, the last scene, you were folding your arms. So I wanted to be such a show-off in front of the big audience, and I said, oh, miss, I believe I was picking my nose at the time. And she said, no, you were through. This was not a comedian. It was just a script girl. She's worse than Henny Young.
Oh, that kills you right there, doesn't it? You got to run. I'll let you go. I know you have to.
I really feel that I should go because I'm glad I could come here, though, for a few minutes. So, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you, Jack.
Happy New Year.
And thank you for coming. Say hello to Mary.
Well, hello again. This is Buck Benny speaking. I am joined by John Henderson. Hey, John.
Oh.
From This Day in Jack Benny. And John,
Yeah.
I hope you're enjoying being the #1 Jack Benny podcast available in our country or on the planet at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Bucks is currently down. Currently, all my podcasts are down. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get them back up and what I want to do and things. So for right now, I'm taking a little pause. Actually, it wasn't as traumatic as I thought it would be when it sort of happened. I was like, well, I still have my YouTube channel and we're working on that, like this project. And
Yeah.
And then I'll get it back here in the next few weeks probably or something. But it's kind of nice having a break. It's the first time in 20 years I haven't like been panicked and putting together podcast after podcast after podcast. I'm just like, okay, I'll just take a little break for a couple of weeks and figure out what I want to do, where I want to put my podcast and things, and who I want to have be my host or whatever. So
yeah, well, I mean, if that were true, that would be great. I don't know if it is actually true. I don't know how you determine that, because for me, the ones that come up first on my feed, I feel like they're different every time, or what device you're on and everything like that. So
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's probably still me. I mean, even though it doesn't exist and they're going nowhere, when they click on it, I'm probably still me not existing is still better than John. So anyway, and we of course have Terry Phillips with us. Hey, Terry.
Hello.
Hello, Terry. So Terry, do you have any projects in the works? I think you're taking a break maybe for a little while. I'm not sure where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing,
Okay.
but I haven't been producing any new ones because I have a new job.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of distracting me
I
from
figured you'd be busy with that for a while.
theater. And part of what I'm doing in the new job is writing and producing video clips for the company.
That's
So
cool.
I've been using a lot of the same skills and resources,
Yeah.
but not for entertainment.
No.
I mean, they're somewhat entertaining, but that's not the main point.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm writing some new plays, and there's one that I'm hoping will be the next one, and it's about a subject that has been of interest to me for many years, and it is the executive pardon power. As we know, both presidents and governors have the power to pardon people who've been convicted of crimes, and it's kind of a timely topic also. So I thought
Well, yeah.
it might be interesting to try to dramatize it. So that's part of what I've been writing lately.
Cool. Good for you. Good for you. All right. Well, today we have The Tonight Show. This is an audio only version, but at least we have it, and it's really cool that we do. This is from 1970. Um, I believe it's February 7th, 1970 is what it says, but with the dates on these Tonight Shows, I'm never 100% sure. What I am sure about is that it is 1970 because they're talking about his Friars roast that they did, and that's definitely 1970. And they're making it sound like the Friars roast isn't released yet. And when they talk about it, Johnny says something about that's not going to be released for a while yet, like it's a month or two out or something from being released. So I didn't check the timeline of that, but anyway, but this is 1970. They do some talk of Spiro Agnew, um, and Jack talks about how Spiro Agnew was with him when they were watching the launch. I think it was from Apollo 11,
Yeah,
probably.
it was.
Yeah, and so and it's kind of uh, they both mention how funny Spiro Agnew is, and if you watch uh, the roast, he's very very good and does a nice job, a nice delivery, and everything. So, anyway, John, what stood out to you on this one, or what did you
Yeah,
think?
well, I do think the thing that stood out to me most was the Apollo 11 story because I remember, I think it was Apollo 11, but Jack Benny's grandson, I had a chance to interview him, and he talks about how Jack had taken him to the launch of Apollo 11. And so I had sort of heard the story that Jack went, and so it was interesting to hear sort of the same story from a totally different point of view.
Right.
And also just I feel like the interactions between Jack Benny and Johnny Carson are so nice, because Johnny Carson is such a fan of Jack Benny,
Yes.
and so everything that Jack Benny says, there's an appreciation from Johnny, whereas I think other hosts might be like, okay, where's he going with this or what's happening? Whereas and maybe it's also partially the style of the Tonight Show, but it's all very relaxed and it's like, hey, let's just go where it goes, and the conversation can go anywhere.
Exactly, exactly. And you can just hear the affection they each have for each other and admiration, and it's always charming to see these two together, or at least hear them together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Terry, what did you think of this one, and what stood out to you?
Well, the first thing I want to bring up is the date. I'd misread it at first. I thought it was 71, but it was also interesting to me that they wished each other Happy New Year. So it had to be either the end of 69, which is not impossible. If it was after Apollo 11, that was in July of 69.
Right.
Um, but anyway, it was around the end of 69 or the beginning of 70, and I looked at the list of shows that it could have been. It probably wasn't in Jack Benny was on the Tonight Show in November of 69. So it probably wasn't, he wouldn't have wished people Happy New Year in November, I wouldn't
No, I
think.
wouldn't think so.
And then he was on in February of 70. So he might have wished people happy birthday around then. But they didn't mention anything about his birthday, which would have been a week later if it was in
Right.
February. So I don't know about the date. I was confused about that. But all that aside, I found his story about the script girl to be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd heard that story before,
Mhm.
and it still makes me laugh. One thing you can say about Jack Benny, among many, is that no matter what story he's telling, he holds your attention until the very, very end.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
that's how it was listening to him tell that one. I loved it.
Well, and it's such a beautiful story in that it it's insightful into Jack's personality as well, because here he is yet again giving somebody attention and saying how impressed he is just because they were so funny, and yet it wasn't part of their job or anything like that. It was they were just a funny person. um, and he's not taking any credit for himself. He's not patting himself on the back in any way. It's just how taken aback he was by her, and how she topped him for sure. And it was, yeah, I thought it was great. So um, the this one has a lot of good stories told well, and he's talking about the Apollo 11, the whole thing. And I don't know, there's just something about uh the space program that in that time frame is so interesting to hear about. And we know it was such a small window of time. I mean, you've got, essentially 3 or 4 years where it was really in the public's eye, where it was the thing to talk about. And then after that, uh, people would just get tired of going to the moon and everything and sort of not talk about it much, and they just sort of stopped. And then it just changed directions, and eventually a decade later became the shuttle program and things, and then piqued interest again at that point. But just interesting how that all works out. And I think it's so funny how now with Elon's uh, different space equipment, that it comes in and lands itself, and just to watch it is still astonishing to me. And the fact that it just feels like it hasn't caught any. I guess it's because it's not really necessarily people that he's sending up as much as satellites and things like that. But just to watch it come in and land perfectly next to the tower. I mean, it looks like you're showing something in reverse. It looks like you're showing a launch in reverse is what it looks like. And but it's just amazing what they can do now.
Yeah. The idea that space travel would ever become boring is surprising, but
Yes.
I guess once you've seen a shuttle launch, you've seen it, or whatever.
Yeah, but and just how fast. I mean, it became like, I mean, we're going to the moon, people, and yet, well, we've been there, done that. Move on, move on. Okay.
It's also a little bit like what we were discussing earlier before we started recording this, the notion of live. You don't know what's
Yes.
going to happen, and in fact, some of those rockets do blow up.
Yes.
But it's an adventure that we can enjoy from the comforts of our screens.
Yes.
And at the same time, it is a real adventure. A lot of people say, yeah, why are we spending billions of dollars on something that most people won't benefit from? And of course, most people do benefit, have benefited, and continue to benefit from the space program because of all of the scientific and technological developments that have
And
come along
breakthroughs, and
with it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's why I think they're pushing for it again. I mean, certainly, I think there's more talk about space and space travel and going to Mars and things in the last 5 years than there were the previous 15 years, 20 years before that. It sort of goes in waves, and it feels like we're in one of those waves where we're talking about it a lot more again. So yeah. And I think part of it is because Elon talks about it so much and things.
I sometimes I wonder if people are trying, like governments are trying to recreate the sort of excitement and sort of the time period of this recording, because everyone was so excited about the space program, and
Yes.
there were so many people who got behind them and stuff like that. So trying to recreate that.
It's difficult though, in that, and people mention this all the time on my channels and things on YouTube, because we're presenting things from that time frame. Of course, we're spending our time in the 1970s, early 1970s right now is where we're spending a lot of this. And they'll point out how there was only 3 channels to watch. And so,
Right.
and of course, so things seem bigger and things. It was like, especially if something was on that one of those 3 channels, where
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it could be 70% of the people in the country watch something happen or experience something together. And now it's so fractured that it's difficult to capture that same kind of zeitgeist or whatever that you would get back then. Um, You know,
Definitely, yeah.
you still get
Water cooler moments.
exactly, exactly. And I think now some of the social media allows that to happen a little bit more than it was, say, 10 years ago, because a lot of people could be talking about it in so many reels or whatever. But still, I don't think it'll ever quite be as capture the whole country as it did back when we had three channels and that sort of thing. But still interesting. And I gotta say, I guess I need to respond to this too. So many people say things like, "Oh, if only we could go back to that time," or "I wish it was so much better back then," or whatever. And whenever I hear that, I'm always like, it was great back then, but then if you didn't catch one of these shows, there's a reason why people get excited when I present a show. It's like, well, like this. I mean, you're listening to Johnny Carson talking to Jack Benny, but you heard it, saw it once live or whatever, and then you
Mhm.
never got a chance to see it again or experience it again. Here, we have so much that we can find to present in different ways or another, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on one of the streaming services, whether it's on the Internet Archive. I mean, there's so many shows, things that you never thought you'd get a chance to experience again that you get a chance to. So I think it's a pretty exciting time right now for experiencing whatever you want. If you want to sink into Bonanza, you can. If you want to watch some, or better yet, because Bonanza's always been on, right? More or less. But some obscure Western that hasn't been available for
Right.
15, 20 years, and all of a sudden it ran for 2 seasons, and now you can get it on DVD or something, and or it's on Internet Archive or something, and so you can experience it. I just had a guy today email me about our Love American Style. I'm like, where did you get this great looking Love American Style, and where can I find these great copies of it or whatever? I'm like, uh, here's a playlist over on YouTube that has like
Yeah.
70 of them that are
Yeah.
all really good looking, and they're all, from the various seasons, and they're just sitting there and you can enjoy them as to your heart's content. So it's just kind of cool how much is out there.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
so
yeah.
true. There's a proverb in the Bible talking about how everyone's always talking about the old days and how the old days were good, and things like that. So this has been something that people have done since the beginning of time, thinking, idolizing or idealizing,
Yes.
the old days. But you're right, there's so many things available. I remember even in the 90s where you had a lot of things available through VHS and things
Right.
like that. There was things that I had heard of and you literally could not find anywhere. There was no way
Right.
to watch them. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. I wonder if it's available. And it's like there on YouTube at your fingertips on your phone while you're walking. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
And it can be anybody can be. I mean, Jesus was not a CD guy. He was into vinyl. And so that's okay. Some people aren't ready to move on yet. So it's like, that's
Well,
fine.
this was pre-Jesus. This was
Oh, okay.
Did they even have streaming back then? I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. He had quite a
Live
turntable from
art.
what I hear. So
We should, to put this in context, we should also remember what was going on in America
yeah.
in 1970s. I mean, it was during the Vietnam War.
Yep.
It was a very violent time politically, and it was unstable. And I mean, this was, if people want to think of this as the good old days, they have to take everything along with it,
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
not just entertainment. On the other hand, one of the things I loved about this episode, even though it would have been cool to see it, is that it was like listening to a radio program. I mean, audio
Yeah.
only,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it worked. You did not have to look at the picture. It was just
Definitely.
as good as the old Jack Benny radio show or any of the other
Right.
wonderful programs from that era.
Right.
Yeah. I think
And I
that's
hear that, we know because it's a big story and everything, or was, that how Johnny's shows from the 60s and so forth got taped over and things and don't exist. But I've also heard alternately that they had audio of almost all of them that still exists.
hmm,
So it's like I wish they would release those audio versions or play them on whatever, Spotify or something, put them out there as a podcast or something where you could listen to these old shows, because you're exactly right. With Johnny's show, it was a talk show. So you don't really need the visual that much. You feel like you do because that's the way you've always enjoyed it. But when you take the visual away and just have the audio, it's also very enjoyable. So,
Well, we can recreate it on my set back here if you
yeah, there
want.
you go. There you go. Yes, just yeah, lip syncing to it. It'd be great. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, but what a what an interesting times we live in now. Oh, I know what I was going to point out. Um, the other thing is you don't realize sometimes, like you're saying, you got to take the good with the bad, and folks are like, "Oh, I wish it could be back in the time again," and things. I was just listening to one of our presentations of Orson Welles and his commentaries. And he's on there in 1946 saying that last week, so so it was this time in 1946, so less than 80 years ago. He's like, in Mississippi, for the very first time, they allowed black people to vote. And I'm like, that is really sad if the black people weren't voting until just 80 years ago. That's quite a while after the Civil War. You would think by then they would be voting, but that was the first time they were voting. And of course, the story he was sharing was, yes, they were voting for the first time. And of course, there's someone running for office that the first thing he's going to do at make is where they can't vote again. And that's what his whole thing he was running on was for. And it's just, that's so sad, but it's one of those things we need to know. It's good to know what the history is, all of our history,
And add
good,
to that,
bad, everything.
it was only 60 years ago that the Voting Rights Act
Right,
passed. Yes, state by state that the right to vote existed for black people, but it really wasn't until 65, right? Wasn't that when
right.
the Voting Rights Act was
Yeah,
passed? 60 years ago.
yeah. That's younger than me. So it's like, gosh, but crazy.
And when we're looking back, we also already know what happens, right? But when you're in the moment, there's a lot of fear as well. Like you look at
Yes,
the Cold War, where you're living in that time, you don't know what's going to happen, and it can be
correct,
terrifying.
correct.
Unlike now when everything is so wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah, there is. It's great. And so stable, and you just know what's going to happen. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I hope folks really enjoy this Johnny Carson. Is there anything else we want to point out about it or anything?
Well, I just thought it was neat. You were talking about the script girl thing,
Yeah.
how he mentions which episode that's from. And so, us having gone through many of the episodes, remembering, oh yeah, the one with Claudette Colbert, and then imagining that happening there is
Oh
pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. I forgot that he actually mentions it. Yeah, you can get it down where you've, because we've actually, I think we presented that one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we must have. Yeah, because we're beyond that. So, yeah, cool. I should probably throw that on here, but I shouldn't say that because I'll be too lazy to pull it up. Who knows? Maybe you'll get a bonus episode after this. Maybe not. We'll see. But anyway, enjoy Johnny Carson and Jack Benny. And it's so cool how many of these we do have. I mean, I think audio wise, maybe I have two or three. And then video wise, we probably have another four or five. So we have like 7 appearances of Jack. Now, the thing is, he appeared usually twice a year for over a decade. So in reality, we should have like quite a few of these, 15 or something. He probably appeared 15 to 20 times, and we have like half of that. But still, half's better than nothing. So anyway, we'll let folks enjoy it, and we'll see everybody next time. Goodbye, everyone.